On this week's edition of 101 Sports, we'll be talking about college hoops,
Champions League,
and the college football playoff rankings. And it all starts right now. Welcome back to another edition of 101 Sports. Let's get things started off with the quick hitters. And Max, we had an incident in college football that I think we both need to address here. Michigan State. It was a beat up on the field, and then people got beat up in the locker room almost.
Gray, let me tell you something. College football and the NCAA should be outright ashamed of themselves. There's no place for this action.
No.
On the field, off the field. I don't care what the score was. I don't care what the stakes were. At the end of the day, we're all human beings, and there's no right there's no excusable for this.
And I've heard people, take the blame for the stadium because there's only one entrance, and Michigan has to come from the far sideline so they can run out of the tunnel and, slap the Go Blue sign. But there's no excuses for that.
Absolutely.
I think Mel Tucker and his team, I know it's been a difficult season. They're 3-5 right now. They had all these high expectations coming in. I think personally Mel Tucker needs to be fired. Those players need to be suspended, potentially kicked out of school, because there is no place for a legal action like that.
I 100% agree with you, and it reminds me of something that occurred in the professional world. I know you're a big Suns guy. That Western Conference Finals where the Clippers fell short, and then they started taking it out on the Suns players.
Oh, Patrick Beverly shoved Chris Paul. That's what you're talking
exactly,
about? Yeah.
Exactly. There's no place for that in the sports world. I mean, this is the place where everyone comes together and shows sportsmanship in a beautiful way. These players, like you said, kicked out of school. Hopefully they face.
And again, you're 3-5. I know you're ticked off, but at some point you got to walk off the field, go in your locker room, and regroup. You just can't do that. You can't do it. There's no place for it in sports whatsoever.
You have to be the bigger man in that situation.
100%. But also talking football, the XFL, okay, being backed by The Rock, and who else now? But the XFL, they're going to be debuting in 2023. Max, they've released 8 teams, the logos, uniforms, all that. What are your thoughts?
Well, I can't wait for 108 days to go by because I am excited for this.
Are you?
I really am. I think The Rock and President Russ Brandon are going to do a great job with the XFL.
Why? How?
The Rock's a movie star, right?
Yes, he's a movie star.
You know what he does?
What does he do?
Entertain.
He entertains, okay.
He's going to make this XFL season so entertaining. I wouldn't be surprised, Gray, if the NFL starts taking some of their marketing strategies and applies it into their system.
I mean, technically they've already done it because the first time we ever saw a sky cam in football was with the XFL. They brought in the sky cam. They brought in miking up refs and offensive linemen. We see that in the NFL now, but I hate to be the bearer of bad news, Max, but no league has ever survived a merger like this. Or another league has
This is
never.
different.
It's not different.
It is different.
They
because
tried this
got
like
Dwayne
3
The
years
Rock
ago.
Johnson. This is going to come up right after the Super Bowl. People are going to be hungry for more football.
It's never worked
The
ever.
XFL is going to quench the viewers' thirst.
The only time an alternating league besides the NFL has ever worked for a long period of time was the AFL. And it only worked because they signed a major media rights TV deal with NBC and CBS. So they had the funding, and then they had the marketing to do it. The XFL, spring football, has never worked. I'm sorry, but it will never work.
But you like football, right?
I like football, but February, that's basketball season. That's college basketball. Will you
No.
Will you turn off March Madness to watch the XFL?
Absolutely.
Get out of here. You are full of it. You are absolutely full of it.
Maybe I wouldn't go that far, but come on, Gray. I'm forced to see the Carolina Panthers play every Sunday. You don't think I want to see
And I'm
the
forced
Vegas
to see the Washington
Vipers?
Commanders every Sunday.
So I'm excited to see what Dwayne The Rock Johnson does with this XFL league.
And there's not even a team in Carolina, is there?
No, there's not.
Well, who is the best team name?
Vegas Vipers.
The Vegas Vipers. Isn't there
come
like
at
a
me.
team in St. Louis now? And
There's 8. There's 8, and it's going to be a good season.
But hey, if you want to watch washed up NFL players, I'm sorry, Rod Woodson and Hines Ward, if you want to watch those players coach from the sidelines with no head coaching experience, be my guest.
Entertainment at its finest.
It's not.
It really is.
But now, okay, we've gone from 2 footballs. We're going to talk about another type of football, okay? Lionel Messi potentially coming to the MLS.
That is so good for the MLS. It's a chance for them to get their feet wet and really get this enterprise and market that they haven't seen really ever.
Yeah. And what the MLS did with the new deal with Apple, okay, they signed a new media rights deal. Apple pays a bunch of money, so every MLS game, there's no more regional TV networks, so it's all going to be on Apple, which means you're not going to get really any bump-in viewers. If you're watching Apple TV, you're going to be watching it for the MLS. And the MLS has done this time and time again, but not with a player of Messi's caliber. I'll give you that.
No one can match Messi. I mean, Messi's like one of the greatest footballers in the world right now.
If the greatest. If not one of the greatest, probably the greatest. You can throw Ronaldo up there, you can throw Pele up there, maybe Garrincha, but Messi is up there. I mean, he will give this league a ton of exposure, not only because of his name, but because he's just such a great player. And again, wherever he goes, it's not, we're going to go see, the Portland Timbers. We're not going to go see the Seattle Sounders, whatever they're called now. We're going to go see Lionel Messi. And that will be good for the league, but the high is going to wear off eventually. If his play dips, if his branding dips.
I'm going to disagree with you.
Yeah.
I'm really going to disagree with you because I
So
think
you're
more
seeing like
players
the-
are going to come over to the MLS after seeing what Messi does here in
but all we've
America.
seen in the MLS is they've never really got any rising stars. They've had rising stars themselves, like with Almiron and Josef Martinez for Atlanta, but it's older European stars coming over, and they just can never sustain the success because they retire too quickly.
I agree, but like this is Messi. Think about what Jordan did to the game of basketball. Think about what Babe Ruth did to the game of baseball.
But he already did that in another league, though.
Correct, but now they're coming here. Messi is going to continue his reign. I don't see Messi going anywhere.
Okay, but also with Babe Ruth, you mentioned this. Do you remember Babe Ruth as a Yankee or like a Boston Brave?
A Yankee.
That's exactly my point. So we're going to wrap it up with Max here. We're talking college hoops. November is among us. Talking with Caden and Jesse after this. College hoops is upon us, okay? November has started. College basketball starting less than a week from now. And I got Caden, I got Jesse here to talk about it with us. And guys, we're going to talk about some local flavor, okay? UNC. They make the championship game last year. They beat Duke in the Final Four. Can they keep up this momentum?
Guys, I have something to say, and this might be the hottest take of the entire year.
Okay.
But my love for Carolina basketball was far greater than Gray's for the University of Wake Forest.
It's Wake Forest University, first of all. You couldn't even get that right. Okay.
So,
but make your point, and I'll go ahead. Make your point.
So let's break this down for a second. 4 of Carolina's 5 starters decided to come back to Chapel Hill for this season. Junior guards R.J. Davis and Caleb Love, arguably the best backcourt in all of college basketball, came back for another championship campaign. Senior forward, Mr. Double-Double, Armando Bacot is back to finish what he started last year.
Mr. Outer Banks?
You can just about expect a double-double from this guy every single night. Honestly, the only inconsistent part of his game is his hairstyle. The guy rocks a different haircut every night, but as long as he keeps pounding the glass and as long as he keeps playing good defense, I could care less about what his hair looks like. Speaking of defense, we cannot forget about Leaky Black. This 5th-year senior is by far the best on-ball defender in all of college basketball. And the cherry on top, let's not forget about Pete Nance, the graduate transfer from Northwestern.
He's not replacing Brady.
The guy is 6'11", he can spread the floor, and he shoots lights out. Gray, you're right.
He's not replacing Brady Manek.
No one can replace Brady Manek, but this guy is pretty damn close.
I could roast you about this. Caden, do it for me.
All right. I know you're a big UNC fan, blue blood through and through, Tar Heel. I think they're a bit overrated.
You're darn right they are.
They're coming in second ranked team in preseason polls.
We're actually
not.
the first-ranked team in preseason polls.
Either one. It's different polls, different rankings.
They're predicted
Top
high.
2. They've got high expectations. People forget last year, midway through the regular season, they didn't look that great. They didn't look like even a tournament team midway through the season.
They lost to Pitt.
Caden, I know you failed history in high school, but let me give you a little history lesson. Let's go back to 2016. This UNC team lost to Villanova in a heartbreaker of a national championship game. What happened in 2017? This team beat Gonzaga, brought that trophy back to Chapel Hill. Redemption season 2.0 for the Heels. I'll see you guys in Houston.
Redemption season. You touched earlier about the best backcourt in the league, Caleb Love, your man. He's a good player and all.
He's a great player.
I don't like him. I don't like his shot selection. I think he's a shot chucker. I don't like the pairing with R.J. Davis. I think R.J. Davis is a little bit too selfish too.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
Love only shot 37% from the field last year.
Let him know.
I saw him in the tournament last season. He was chucking up everything he got.
You're darn right.
He shot 100. He took 100 more shots than Bacot last year. That's not going to work when your second, maybe even third best player is taking the most shots on the team.
Caden, let me ask you this. Name another college basketball starting five with 2 juniors, 2 seniors, and 1 graduate transfer. You can't. That's why UNC
I mean, you
going
probably
on.
could, but I don't know if they're going to be, a big Power 5 team.
I think they need more young talent, more of those energy guys coming off the
Young
bench.
talent, let's not forget about Seth Tremble, Jalen Washington, all of those guys. This team has more depth, and they're going to prove that.
I love
Seth,
how who? Oh, exactly. Here, let me finish this real quick. You didn't even mention Puff Johnson, because if you did mention Puff Johnson, he'd probably throw up on the floor. And let's not forget last year, you mentioned the Wake Forest Demon Deacons. Let's look in that camera right there. You see that camera right there? What was the final score of that game? 98-76. I'll tell it for you. Jake LaRavia destroyed your entire team. And again, Carolina came in with no expectations last year. Hubert Davis is a fool of a coach, and he can't get it done when the pressure is on. They beat Duke twice last year because Duke could not withstand the mounting pressure. 18-year-olds holding up a 42-year legacy of Coach Mike Krzyzewski. I don't see it from Carolina this year. I like my man Caden. He said Caleb Love's shot selection, it's terrible. R.J. Davis didn't even play in the exhibition game. We don't know about his injury concerns. And Puff Johnson, terrible, terrible. His brother Cameron, so much better.
I'm gonna throw in. I think Leaky Black's one of the most overrated players in the
You're
league.
darn right he is.
4 points a game, 3 rebounds a game, 2 assists a game. You talk about him being a lockdown defender. He didn't even record more than 1 steal or 1 block. Best on-ball defender in the league. Overrated. He's only overrated because of his name.
You're darn right. Now give me the
He's
best.
just running cardio out there.
Okay, now let's see. Okay, we're gonna get away from this, Power 5 blue blood team. Let's go mid-major. Who do you got in mid-major?
I'm going with the team that's been so good, so dominant over the last, 20 years. People forget that they're a mid-major. I'm going Gonzaga.
Gonzaga, I like it. Okay.
Caden, it's okay. You don't know any better. This happens every single year. We get to November, guys like Jay Billis, Seth Greenberg, LaFonso Ellis, everyone overhypes Gonzaga. They play
I'll give him that.
They play Carolina at Madison Square Garden. They play Duke in the CBS Classic. But then they start playing teams like BYU. Name another team in Gonzaga's conference other than BYU and St. Mary's.
I
can't.
couldn't name anybody.
You can't.
That's
This is
not
what
their
happens.
fault.
Gonzaga, they're a 1 seed in the NCAA tournament. They barely make it to the Sweet 16, and then they lose to a team like Arkansas. They lose to a team like Tennessee. And they lose to a team like the University of North Carolina Tar Heels.
He's got a point. I mean, I will say, Gonzaga, I will mention, is overhyped, okay?
They're
usually
extremely overhyped.
And everybody picks them in the tournament somewhere, and down the road they lose. I'll give you that. But who's actually your team?
Let's not forget about the Ramblers of Loyola Chicago. Hands down, this team is built for March. They have Final Four experience, they have Sweet 16 experience, and they know what it's like being on the big stage. And they'll be playing on the big stage a lot more this season. The Ramblers moved from the Missouri Valley Conference over to the Atlantic 10. And their non-conference schedule includes teams like Harvard, Clemson, and Stanford. This team will be playing in bigger games with better competition and will have more national recognition. And honestly, as long as Sister Jean is still doing her thing, don't sleep on the Ramblers.
No, you're right there. She's still kicking. They got a chance no matter what. But, I think Loyola's a fun team to watch. They're a fun team to root for. A good Cinderella story year in, year out. They don't have the resources nor the talent to compete with these big schools like Gonzaga. They've only been to the tournament 8 times in school history. They've only been to the Sweet 16 5 times. They're really nothing more than a fun story.
Only going to the Sweet 16 5 times is, as a mid-major university in Chicago, that's pretty impressive to me.
Gonzaga's been to the Sweet 16 in 6 of the last 7 years.
Yeah, but Gonzaga's always preseason number 1.
Yeah, they weren't always. It wasn't always that way. They had to build their success from the ground up, and that's what they've done since 1999 under head coach Mark Few. Since he's taken over, past 22 seasons, They've made the tournament every single year,
But they always lose in the Sweet 16.
but they still make it.
But they always lose in the Sweet 16.
Not always.
But they usually make it, don't they? And again, Loyola, I don't think they have anybody left from that team because Cameron Krutwig was the last guy. He was the
gone.
last guy. He's gone.
What's his name? Lucas Williamson, gone. Who do they have now?
They have 5 guys who know what it's like to play in March.
Can you win a championship with a 5-man roster?
They made it to the Final Four.
5 years ago.
We're living in the past.
I believe
Jesse.
in this.
He
Loyola
knows his
Chicago
history.
team.
He
I believe
passed
in this
history.
team.
I did
I
pass
believe in
history.
this team, and don't sleep on the Ramblers. Don't sleep on Sister Jean. Loyola will be playing in this.
Don't worry,
tournament.
I'll be rooting for him.
Guys, again, love the talk, love the tenacity, and Carolina still sucks. So we're going to be talking about the Champions League. I get to be in one of these seats, actually. Me, Max Wallace, and Matt Laguza.
Welcome back to One-on-One Sports. I got my guys Matt and Gray here to talk about some Champions League. And guys, let's get things rolling with a bit of a fan favorite here on One-on-One Sports, the teams that flat out disappoint. Little shout out to Sam Landsman and his Mets. Let's bring it back to the Champions League. Who has been the most disappointing so far, Gray?
Almost every team in La Liga. I'll start with that, okay? They have 4 teams that qualify, right? Finish top 4. 3 of them are not playing Champions League football after this, okay? Barcelona finished 3rd, Sevilla finishes 3rd, and Atletico Madrid finish with 1 point in 6 games. I mean, it's unbelievable.
Hard to debate that.
It's really disappointing. Just La Liga came in with such high hopes. Barcelona, they spent so much money. They stole so many players from
So
Chelsea.
much money that they didn't even have.
So many players, and they scored 12 goals, 9 of which came against last place Pilsen, who had a negative 19 goal differential.
And a tear for Pilsen, I mean, honestly.
Yeah,
Just like, look at that group. I felt bad for them.
Yeah, it's disappointing when you see like such a young and you hope that these teams do well, like those last place teams, like Club Brugge and Porto this year,
Porto.
coming 1 and 2 in their group. Amazing, but it's disappointing for Barca and all those La Liga
I mean,
teams.
and no offense to the Belgian league or anything
No,
like
no, of
that,
course
but
not, yeah.
it's like Barcelona. They sold so many shares of their club, gave away so much ticket revenue just to be able to afford players like Robert Lewandowski.
Yep.
And they couldn't get it done.
It's just disappointing, but I'm going to have to mention one other team who I think is probably the most disappointing team, and that's Juventus.
Terrible.
I mean,
Awful.
you look at one of their biggest rivals in Serie A, Napoli.
Uh-huh.
They played so well. Juventus scored 9 goals and finished second, almost last in their group. It's really disappointing. They lost to Maccabi Haifa.
Hey,
I
shout out to
mean-
that American goalkeeper, though, from
Hey,
Maccabi Haifa.
hey, big up to him. He might not make the World Cup this year.
He will not.
He will not. But it's just with a club like Juventus and the success that they've had over the past couple years, especially in the Champions League, you expect a lot more from them because their group was not that difficult.
And it's almost like we're seeing these clubs that are like, they stay at the top for so long. Like you see, Manchester United in England or even PSG a little bit. You've seen the turmoil there. It's these teams that are, the top clubs. People are developing talent. They're keeping that talent. And they're just succeeding. Like you said, with Napoli, Juventus has fallen up. AC Milan's getting back. Inter Milan's getting back. It's just these top clubs that can't keep pace right now.
Yep. That's how the world works, though. You're going to be at the top. Eventually, you have to fall.
Yeah.
Let's flip the script a little bit. Who's been the most impressive team?
I mean, I think you already said yours was Napoli. Feed me.
It's got to be. I think we can all agree that Bayern Munich is the best team in the Champions League right now.
Yeah.
I think we can all agree with that. But outside of that, I wanted to go, and that's Napoli. I mean, they finished second in their group. Their only loss was to Liverpool.
I think they finished first, though, on goal difference.
Oh, they did. I forgot about that.
first
On
on
goal
goal
difference, they
difference.
finished on goal difference in first. The only loss in the last match of the group stage to Liverpool at Anfield, 2-0. First goal coming in the 85th minute.
Yeah.
So they have played extremely well. It's really difficult to win at Anfield against Liverpool. So you can't really fault them on that, especially since they won the first match against them at home, 3-1, I believe it was. Victor Osimhen most likely going to United in the summer.
Maybe.
Could be. They've had a lot of talented players, a lot of young talented players. I'm excited to see what they can do in the future rounds.
I mean, Napoli, they've been a great story, as you said, like with Juventus falling off and, AC Milan, Inter Milan, they're doing what they do. But again, Napoli, they lose Lorenzo Insigne. They lose one of the staples of their club, and they just keep going forward. I can't remember the guy's name. We talked about this before this. I can't pronounce his name. I won't say it. But again, I think I just got to go with Bayern, man. I mean, 6 wins of 6, 18 total points, and in such a stacked group
Especially
as well.
after losing Lewandowski,
Lewandowski
as we said.
to Barcelona, who was in their group.
Yep.
And again, you have players like, Serge Gnabry stepping up. Their back line's been solid. They have players retired. They bring in young center backs. They've been fantastic. I think De Ligt, Upamecano, he's there. They've just been so great. And again, Serge Gnabry, he was a reject at Arsenal. He goes to Bayern Munich and has great success. And in that group again, like we said, Pilsen was there, Barcelona was there, Inter Milan is there. That's 2 top European clubs, and they just wiped the floor with everybody. I don't see how they can be beat.
No, I don't think so. It's going to be very difficult. But quick shout out, as we've said in the first question, Porto and Bruges. I mean,
Shout out Porto and Bruges.
I mean, Bruges especially for me. So many young, talented players that are going to move into the Premier League eventually in the next 2 years, I'd say.
Do you see maybe like an Ajax out of them, maybe making a run?
I mean, I could see it. I mean, and Porto, Diogo Costa, the goalkeeper, could be starting for Portugal this year in the World Cup. Could be on a move to Manchester United in the summer. I mean, these young and just like, I just love
They're
it.
taking
I
down
love
the old-
seeing
they're
these
taking
teams
down
doing
the
it.
old
I
guard.
love seeing it. I love seeing it.
Yes, Guza.
But now, gentlemen, the question the viewers have been waiting for. Let's get right to the point. Which European Premier League do you think will go the furthest?
It's got to be Manchester City. Manchester City, just on paper right now, they're just too good. I'm sorry. It's just, say what you want about oil money, but they have spent it well. Kevin De Bruyne, again, arguably the best midfielder in the world. Ilkay Gundogan, he's been,
Arguably.
he probably is.
He is.
Ilkay Gundogan, obviously, and just the force they have up top now with Erling Haaland. I mean, that was a steal. I mean, I don't want to call it, 50 million pounds a steal, but he's just become probably
it's
the
definitely
best.
a steal, yeah.
He's the best striker in the world. He's straight up.
I mean, there's no question about it. And I think if you've watched what's happened in the Premier League so far, you've watched what happened in the Champions League group stage so far, and you see them on paper, Manchester City is arguably the best team in the world. And they should be the favorites to win the Champions League. But they've been the favorites to win the Champions League the last 3 years?
So many times before.
I mean, they have been. And, I remember one time they made it to the Champions League final and then lost to
Who they lose to?
Chelsea.
Who they lose to?
And, that's the team that I'm going to choose besides City, just because, first of all, Liverpool is washed. They're
are
done.
washed. They're
done.
they are
Van
out.
Dijk is not even a top 10 center back in the Prem anymore. This year, he is not a
Fiery
top
take.
10 center back. All right?
I'll agree with you there.
Not a top
Liverpool's
10.
backline is washed.
Liverpool's backline is washed. Trent Alexander-Arnold isn't even producing on the offensive side of the ball anymore this season.
No.
So they have nothing there. The midfield is aging. Salah is not scoring as much as he used to be. Darwin Nunez is a bust so far. I still have faith that he can pick it up a little bit. They're not going to do it. And right now, Chelsea is in the wizarding world because Potter Ball is working. 5-0 in the Champions League since he took charge. Obviously, a tough loss to Brighton in the Premier League this past weekend. But other than that, I think they can figure it out eventually. Still think City on paper is better, but I just don't trust them.
But again, also Chelsea, they've won a Champions League. They have the experience. And again, Thomas Tuchel, again, he wasn't great for that locker room.
No.
They got him out. They bring in Graham Potter from Brighton. And again, it's tough to beat your former team. But
No.
he's shown a lot of promise. But just looking at, again, that Darwin Nunez signing, compare that to Erling Haaland, it's just a complete steal. They got
It
him for
really
30
is.
million pounds less. And Erling Haaland, I just don't see how you can stop him because he plays that style of football so well. Pep Guardiola has slotted him in at the 10 position. He's just been fantastic.
Now, I said this last year about PSG being, if they don't do it last year, that was going to be it. They're not going to do it. I'm saying the same thing for City. If they don't do it this year, it's never happening. Done.
You're right about PSG. They didn't win it.
They didn't win it.
I'll give you credit there, Goose.
Love talking some international football. Love hearing some hot takes. Let's bring it back across the pond. Let's talk some college football playoffs. Back inside One-on-One Sports, and we have our Tim Houlihan joining us with college football.
Thank you for that, Max. College football playoff. It's only a few weeks away, and now we're going to start looking at the bracket every Tuesday from going on from ESPN. But I think my predictions are a little bit more accurate, in my personal opinion. But let's start with number 6. I got TCU. Media wanted to put Alabama. I don't agree with it. I think TCU's been great this year. Big 12 has been an awesome surprise conference, I think, in general, this entire season, with a lot of good opponents like Kansas State and Oklahoma State as well. Texas is still in the ranked conversation. TCU is currently undefeated. They go against Texas again, who's, again, still ranked, even though they have 3 losses. But I think if TCU goes undefeated for the rest of the season, they have a genuine chance of being in this spot. For 5, I got the Clemson Tigers. I think they're good. I think they're still a great team, but I'm not seeing it yet. GJ is still not that guy yet. I think he's improved a lot since last season, but their schedule has not been amazing. They sputtered against Syracuse. That Notre Dame team they're playing next week destroyed Syracuse, so who knows what's going to happen next, but I got the Tigers at 5. At 4, I hate to say it, I got the Michigan Wolverines. While I hate this team a lot, they've played really good. Their running backs have been great. Blake Corum is a current Heisman finalist or front runner. And I think despite their schedule not being the strongest out of conference, it's been pretty much a cakewalk out of conference. I still think they are a solid team. The defense has been great after losing Hutchinson, and I really don't know how you can put Michigan outside of the top 4 at this current time. For 3, I'm going with a take here. I got the Georgia Bulldogs at 3, and while that defense is still great, and while I think that offense has awesome strides, they've sputtered a lot. That offense can sputter and not get anything going. They were losing a good amount of that game against Kent State, and they almost lost to Missouri in like back-to-back weeks. And while they have caught up since then, and they got the biggest game of college football this year coming this Saturday, right now I got the Bulldogs at 3, and if they play great against Tennessee and win, that will obviously change. At number 2, I got my Ohio State Buckeyes. While their strength of schedule has not been the strongest compared to these SEC teams, I believe personally that they might be the most complete team in college football for a few reasons. Just looking at Georgia, like I said earlier, defense is their main stage of the game. And another team we're going to talk about later, right after Ohio State, offense has been their huge C of the game. Ohio State has been able to play good on both sides of the ball. In every game, when the offense will start stuttering, the defense holds up. Every time the defense has started to fall down, offense just hits them back and back and back. I think overall Ohio State will have a chance to prove that they are the number 2 team against these guys and get some revenge. But right now, I still have to put Ohio State at 2 simply because they have not had that great of a strength of schedule. But at number 1, we got the Tennessee Volunteers. It is weird seeing this logo up here, but they are here. Hendon Hooker has been great. The core has been great. That offense is awesome. It's not as great as 2019 LSU, but it is reminiscent of that in terms of how many points they're putting up a game. And right now, if they beat the Georgia Bulldogs, I can definitely see them being national champions of the college football playoff this year. But as of right now, these are the 6. And I think ESPN got it wrong, but this is it.
Tim, thank you so much. You had me at 6 when you didn't include Alabama. I mean, that was great, Tim. Thank you so much. We'll be right back here on One-on-One Sports.
Thanks for watching another edition of One-on-One Sports.
Be sure to check us out on YouTube and follow our Instagram and Twitter.
And until next time,
Whose side
are you on?